Hi, everybody. This is Ginzburg. Welcome, everybody, to the Creating a Lasting Content Strategy for Your Business Using Tech Platforms. So I'm just going to give everybody maybe maybe 30 more seconds or so, maybe 45 seconds just to get everybody on board and make sure anybody who's coming in a little bit later that we give them the opportunity to get settled in. So thanks everybody for joining me today. I'm very excited to be here and to talk about content strategy. So yeah, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds or so. Hope everybody's having a great day. Just making sure I have all of my phones on silent, all my Skype on silent, just so that nobody's disturbing us while we're doing this. Just going to get started in a few seconds here. All right, well, it's 1 minute and 30 seconds past the hour, so I think we can probably get started. If anybody's joining us a little bit later, no big deal. I think this session should be recorded and should be available for you guys on demand. So I'm Jean Ginzburg, digital marketing expert. I'm also a #1 best-selling author, and today we're going to talk about creating a lasting content strategy for your business using tech platforms. We're going to get into how to create a content strategy, why you need a content strategy, and then we're going to also touch on tech platforms on how to execute this content strategy as you're going along and helping you and have these platforms as tools for you to implement and your team to implement. So as I'm going along this presentation, please feel free to put in questions into the question box. I will be going through the questions at the end. We're going to be doing about 35 minutes of content and then about 10 minutes of questions. So if you have anything going on that you want to ask during the presentation, please feel free to put that in there. And then I will get to them, of course, at the end. Not a problem. All right, so let's get started. So a little bit about me as the presenter. Like I said, I'm Jean Ginzburg. I'm a digital marketing expert, also a #1 best-selling author of the book Win New Customers, How to Attract, Connect, and Convert More Prospects into Customers in 60 Days Using Digital Marketing Strategies. I am the founder and CEO of a couple of companies, Ginzburg Digital Marketing and Ginzburg.Online. So for both companies, we help entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized businesses find new customers using digital marketing strategies. So basically, we help them with customer acquisition. I've been doing this for a while now, 11 years. I also have a YouTube channel, so if you are interested in checking out any of my free content, I've got 50 videos on YouTube that I've accumulated over the last couple of years, so just go to YouTube and put my name in. I'm also a lifelong learner. I think being an entrepreneur kind of comes with the territory, so I love going through audiobooks and podcasts and digital courses. One of my favorite podcasts is the Gary V Audio Experience. I love listening to Gary V. If you're not familiar with him, definitely go to Google and put his name in there, and you'll find he produces a lot of content when it comes to entrepreneurship. I'm also outdoorsy. I like trail running and snowboarding and cycling, and that's just a little bit about who I am. I've also been featured in a few publications, Forbes and Inc. and the Huff Post and a bunch of other ones. In addition to that, I'm a contributing writer to Amex Open Forum, Thrive Global, and Authority Magazine. So I usually have a few of these publications, a few of these stories in these publications every month, so you can check those out as well. I also am been on a bunch of podcasts and radio shows, so everything from the B2B Growth Show to marketing to crush your competitors, build, live, give, and a bunch of other ones, the Inspired Daily Grind. So if you ever want to hear me talk about digital marketing besides what we're talking about today, definitely check out those podcasts. So a little bit about me. This is just a slide about some of my digital marketing results that I put together. Just going to give you an idea. So for one of my clients, so we ran a Google AdWords campaign, and we had an ROI of 742%. So we spent about $1,500 and made about $13,000 in sales from one campaign. And then for another client, we ran a Facebook ads campaign, and we had 420 completed registrations with a cost of about $1.40. So just wanted to give you just some kind of really quick overview on the type of things that I do and the type of results that I've gotten with my clients in the past. So you're definitely in the right place if you're looking to learn about content strategy, how to use content strategy in your business, and how to use tech platforms to create this content strategy. So if that's what you're here for, you're definitely in the right place. So here is a quick overview of the agenda that we're going to talk about today. We're going to briefly cover the first two topics, branding and messaging, and then the second topic, which is the ideal target market. And I'll let you know why we need to cover that before we get into the content piece, which is the meat of the presentation here. I'm also going to cover a content hack that I have been using for my business, that I've been using for my clients' businesses, where you create content for a whole month, which is just one video. I know that sounds impossible, but it's actually quite possible to do that. And you have content for the whole month with just one originating piece of content, if you will. And then we're also going to talk about content distribution, what that looks like. We're going to talk about, of course, tech platforms as we're going through this presentation. So I'm going to weave those tech platforms into the presentation as we're going along here as well. So that way you guys can better understand what are the types of tech platforms that work best when you're creating your content. So let's start with company branding. And the reason why we are going to briefly touch on company branding and ideal target market is because before we can create content for us to distribute it across social media, our website, whatever it might be, we first need to understand who we are and know who we are as a company, as a brand. So it's really important to think about that first. A lot of times when clients get together with me and we engage, they really want to get started with content or they want to get started with the digital marketing. Well, it's so crucial to first understand who you are and understand your branding and what your messaging is all about, because that's all going to be part of the content. The content doesn't live really on its own, like on a deserted island. It is interwoven into who you are as a brand and also who your audiences are, because the type of content you produce for let's say a 35-year-old mom is going to be completely different than a 55-year-old retired man. So there's completely different, they're consumed, what kind of content, and also where they're distributed to. So that's why it's also very important to know who your ideal target market is, and we're going to get into that into section number 2. So company branding. And I'm going to cover just a few points. There are many points here when it comes to understanding who you are, but I'm going to cover really the basics and what I think are the most important. So the first one is going to be your core values. And really core values are 3 to 7 points. And the reason why you want to have core values in your business is they attract like-minded people to your organization, and that includes customers, clients, even employees, partners. So we want to have core values identified before we start creating our content. And of course, you want to share this with your team and your company. But just some examples of core values would be, just kind of give you an idea of what those look like, would be clients needs first, complete wow experience, action-oriented, no jerks, open and honest. So those are just some examples that I found of core values. My core values for my company, for example, are people first, empower entrepreneurs, solving problems quickly, being proactive, cutting-edge technology, staying with tech trends and changes, and embracing change. So if you don't have core values evaluated for your own company, then I would highly recommend creating those for yourself. If you're, an entrepreneur, I think it's pretty easy to kind of sit down and think about what's most important to you as a company, as a brand, and creating your core values. If you have a team, then it might be a good idea to maybe get together with your team and do a couple-hour meeting and put together 3 to 7 points that really embody what your organization is all about. The next piece that I think is also going to be significant when it comes to creating your content is going to be your brand story, because everybody loves a good story, right? As humans, we think about things in terms of, or we remember things in terms of stories. We don't remember facts, really. I mean, sometimes we do, but really the thing that resonates with us in our memory is stories. And so having a good brand story is going to be a key point in your organization as well. So I mean, it doesn't have to be anything too spectacular. It just could be like, what are your roots from? Where did you come from? Why did you become an entrepreneur? Why did you decide to create your company? Things like that. I mean, it's nothing too grandiose. It doesn't have to be. It just could be an honest point as to why you felt like you just decided that you wanted to start your own company, for example. So I know it's a little bit harder to see, but this is just an example of one of the companies that I work with. They represent artists and they work with artists, and so this is actually their brand story on their website that I pulled down. And the founder of the company has been doing this since 2003. She graduated from high school and she wanted to work with artists. And she talks about, how she was in LA and she didn't really have an outlet for that, so she created her own company and started to work with, represent them. And now they have shows for artists in, I think, 50 different cities all across the world, just not even in the United States. So this is a good example of a brand story. Another brand story that I absolutely love is, of course, person I mentioned before, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And if you're not familiar with him, like I said, definitely take a look at his content. Just go to Google and put his name in there. And one of his brand story that he always talks about as he's telling his speaking, during his speaking engagements, during his podcast episodes, is that he was an immigrant from Belarus. He came here when he was 3 with his family. His family was broke in the beginning, and his dad had a wine liquor business, and Gary grew his dad's business from 3 million to 50 million or something like that, some crazy number by using digital marketing, and that's something I think about all the time. So just another example of a good brand story of how he got started in being an entrepreneur. Company messaging. So that's going to be the next point, and that's really going to be a significant piece of creating your content, because you want to get that message across to your audiences. So whatever it might be, whether it's your brand, partially your brand story, whether it's your core values, whether it's what your company is all about, what your products are all about. So you want to create the company messaging. And I'm not going to get into this too deeply just because we don't have the time. This is another presentation for another time probably. Definitely something to think about when you're creating your company messaging is to incorporate that into your content. And then also, what differentiates you in the market? So that's also something to think about, because there might be many competitors in your space. For example, in things that, what I do, digital marketing, there's a lot of competitors in my space. So what really differentiates me and my company from all of the other digital marketers out there? So it possibly could be my core values. It could be how we work with our clients. It could be our customer service. It could be what we're bringing to the table. It could be our knowledge and our expertise. So think about some differentiators in the marketplace. So like I said, core values could be one of them, focusing on superior customer service, solving a specific problem, being innovative, creating offers that are hard to ignore. For example, maybe you can compete on price. For example, maybe you're using a cryptocurrency or a blockchain within your payment processing, and that has, let's say, zero transaction fees versus, let's say, a credit card. So maybe you can, I've worked with companies like that in the past myself. Maybe you're known as the expert in your field, or making it easy to do business with you, or you're very creative. Maybe you have a creative agency that comes up with just amazing ideas when it comes to marketing campaigns. So these are just some examples of what differentiators could look like in the marketplace. But of course, we have to think about, what that looks like for us and for our business. For me, I believe, for my company, I believe it's my core values. It's really our customer service, and it's creativity and how we approach digital marketing, and how we use the digital marketing to approach the goals that we have when it comes to our clients. So that's just some examples of differentiators in our space. So that was part one, and we talked briefly about what your company is all about, your brand. So let's get into the ideal target market. Again, we're going to briefly cover this piece because I know we only have probably about another 25 minutes in the presentation, so I want to make sure we get into the content and have plenty of time to talk about that. So ideal target market. So before we can create content for our audiences, we have to first understand who our audiences are. As I mentioned earlier, the types of messaging or content that you're creating for a 35-year-old mom is going to be completely different than a retired 55-year-old man. So we have to think about who our ideal target market is when it comes to our products and our services or our company, and who would be the most likely to engage with us. So there's a few levels. There's 3 levels when I think about the ideal target market. And really it's meant to break things down and narrow this field so that we're more niching down into who our ideal target market is. So the first one would be demographic, and that just could be narrowing things down based on age, gender, geolocation, and let's say household income. Could be a few other points, but we want to just take the entire field, let's say, of people in the United States, let's say, and that's 300 million people. Well, we want to start breaking that down because the main point and the really reason why we want to do that is primarily budget, and also just getting to the right audience. So we, of course, cannot, we probably don't have budgets in the millions of dollars like big brands do, so we don't want to be marketing to everybody like Coca-Cola. We want to be definitely narrowing down, niching down to a certain specific demographic that is going to want to engage with us, so that we're not marketing to everybody. The saying goes, if you're marketing to everybody, then you're marketing to nobody. So the first step is just narrowing things down based on, let's say, gender, age, and geolocation. Once we've done that, then let's take the next step, which is going to be psychographics. So as we're evaluating who our ideal target market is, if you're not sure at this point, maybe you're just getting started with your business, you can kind of evaluate that based on feedback that you're getting from, let's say, prospects, or maybe the couple of customers, the few customers that you have just when you're getting started. If you already have a more mature business, then my recommendation would be to do a survey to better understand what your customers' psychographics are. So, and those include goals, pain points, challenges. So what is your ideal target market going through right now as it relates, let's say, to your business or to your products or your service? What are their goals? Are there challenges or pain points? So, for example, in my business, the reason why individuals, businesses, entrepreneurs want to engage with me is because their main pain point is that they want to do digital marketing, they don't know how to do it, and they know that it's valuable when it comes to growing their business or growing their following. So they come to me because I'm, let's say, an expert in digital marketing. So that's just an example of one. But it could be baby joggers. Let's say, for example, you are a parent, but you still want to be outside, or you want to exercise, and but you still have to take care of your child. So a baby jogger could be a good. So the pain point is, I want to be outside and I want to exercise, but, for example, I can't do that right now because of a child that I have to take care of. Well, a baby jogger could be a good solution to someone who was trying to do that, and that's alleviating their pain point and their challenge. So there's just some examples of what that looks like. So really getting deep into what your ideal target market pain points and challenges are, and then also how is your service or product going to address those and going to solve those challenges and pain points. And then the last one, level number 3, as I say, in the ideal target market is where are they hanging out? So we're going to get more deeper into that as we go through this presentation when we get into the content piece. But thinking about where your audience are they on Instagram? Are they reading a newspaper? Are they watching TV? Are they listening to the radio? Are they on social media? Are they reading certain blogs and or websites? So these are important pieces to think about when, and noting those pieces down when you're creating your ideal target market, what we call a customer avatar, because we want to make sure that we're getting to those individuals and those ideal target market when we're putting out our content, so that we can intercept them and they can see our content when we're actually, after we're done creating it. So that is the ideal target market. So let's get into the content piece. That's really the most important. So why is content important for your business? Well, let's take a step back here and really think about that. So back in the day, maybe when the internet was first, I'm mostly going to talk about the internet because that's really my area of expertise when it comes to marketing. So back in the day when the internet was maybe at its infancy, it was much easier to convert individuals and users into customers right away, because we were so unfamiliar with how this all worked. We would maybe, a user would click on an ad and convert right away. Well, things have changed quite a bit in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. It's much harder to convert users into paying customers right away, let's say on the first try. So this is where content comes in. So content is a way to add value, share more about your brand, share more about your core values, your company, and more about your products and how your products or services can solve your ideal target market's challenges, like we talked about just in the previous section. So this is why content is so important. It's really now become a soft sell, and that's really what I believe. That's my philosophy when it comes to marketing. It's no longer like hard sells. It's a soft sell to engage users, to bring them into the fold, and then when it comes time for them to become a paying customer, it just becomes, it's such a normal part of the process, let's say. We want to think about it. I always give the example of dating or getting to know someone. You're not going to come up to someone at a bar or something and just ask them to marry them, right? So that's very awkward and weird. But if we think about getting to know a person over a period of time, asking them out for coffee, going on a date, going on several dates, so as engaging and ascending, let's say, our relationship with that person, that makes much more sense, right? And it's the same concept that we have to think about when it comes to engaging with our prospects as well. Like, we don't want to just push a hard sell in front of their face right off the bat. We want to engage with them. We want to nurture them, and then eventually it makes sense when they're like, oh, well, this is good. Like, I see what your company's all about. You have a good business model here, and yeah, I'd be interested in working further with you and, let's say, buying your product or your service. So that's why, in my philosophy, where I come from where I engage, when we engage with my clients, that's really how we want to work our content, is we want to nurture and engage. So like I said, engage and nurture your prospects. Not hard sell right away, but nurturing them and getting them to understand more about what your company does and how they can benefit. Use branding, messaging, and your ideal target market. So the points we talked about in sections 1 and 2, engage, use that branding, use that messaging, the findings that you have from your ideal target market, and weave that into your content as you're creating it. And we're going to get more into content as to what that means exactly and how to create it and what are some popular points and popular types of content. So using the branding and messaging. Create content to address challenges and pain points. So in section number 2, we went through the ideal target market and how to identify that. And of course, there's much more bigger and in-depth ideas there when it comes to your ideal target market, but we kind of touched on it briefly. And so the content that you want to create is going to be partially, of course, addressing the challenges and pain points that your ideal target be pushing the sale in front of their face. We want to add value up front, provide content that's valuable to them, offer ideas, offer concepts that maybe they haven't thought of before. If they're going through a specific, pain point or challenge, really give them the value up front. So that's my philosophy when it comes to creating content. So the types of content out there. There's many, and we'll go through a few of the main ones, and I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. So one of the main ones that I talk about quite a bit is video, just because I feel that video is such a powerful tool nowadays that has only been around, I don't know, for the last 5-10 years. I mean, more so in the last 5 years, it's become really mainstream. And why I think video is such a key point and such a good way of the medium that you would want to create your content in is it just allows the user and your prospect to engage so much better with you because there's a connection created when it comes to video that you don't have, let's say, with audio or a blog post or other types of content. So it shortens basically the nurturing period that you're going through with this prospect. So and it allows, also video allows you to explain, let's say, your product or your service much more quickly with video than it is with, let's say, the written word or something like that. So I am a big proponent of video, and I use that in my content, and I also, when it comes to content for my clients. Other types of content could be audio, so let's say podcasts. I'm sure we've seen and heard a lot of podcasts out there that's been very popular. And it's such a good also medium because with video, yes, it's a good medium, but at the same time with audio, you don't have to be as engaged with it. So you don't have to be looking at a screen. You can be at the gym or walking your dog or driving a car and still listening to audio content. So I think that audio is also a very significant piece of content when it comes to creating content for your business. Other types of content could be blog posts, articles, case studies, white papers, and the latter two are more if you're, let's say, on the technical side. So let's say you are, you have a SaaS product or something like that. You might want to include case studies or white papers in your nurture sequence, in your nurture funnel when you're going through this, when you're creating content, so that users can see how have you helped other customers and what kind of results have they received. But case studies could be done for anything that related to business, whether it's a small business, whether it's a SaaS company. I mean, those are beneficial for anything out there. So some examples of some of the types of content out there. So this is an example of a blog from Sprout Social, and they have a really good blog when it comes to digital marketing, so how to master Facebook ads, targeting, and zero in on your audience. So that's a piece of content that they put together, and if you go to their blog, you'll see that they have a bunch of content like this on their blog. So here's an example of social media content. So that's from Airbnb. This one talks about acceptance starts with all of us. So that's a video that Airbnb put together for Instagram. That's just an example of a social media one. Podcast example, social media marketing. It's with Michael Setzner. So that's an example of a podcast. So these are all points of content that you can be producing and creating for your own business. And we'll get into how to do that momentarily. And video example, this is from Hootsuite. It is a play on Game of Thrones. And they put together this cute little video called A Game of Social Thrones. I can't play it here, but if you go to YouTube, just put in A Game of Social Thrones and you'll find it. It's a cute little video on how social media and the Game of Thrones comes together, and you can check it out. So I thought that was, I always put that example in as a video just because I think it's such a good example. So that is types of content and why content is important. So now let's get into some of the specifics. So a content hack that I've been using for my audiences, for my clients, is creating content for the whole month with just one video. I know that it sounds impossible, but it's very possible, and I do that all the time. So the first step is to create a video. And I know that some of you might be like, oh, I don't know, video, that's a little tough. Believe me, I was in the same boat when I started video about a couple years ago. I was very shy. I didn't want to be on camera. But it takes some time to get to that point. Of course, as with anything, practice makes perfect. But video, I believe, like I said, is such a significant piece of getting our message across to our users that we want to definitely create video. So starting, I'd say, with one video piece of content, and I don't know, I think it could be a few minutes long to maybe, I'd say, 10 minutes long, talking about a specific topic that's relevant to your audiences. So that's one piece of content right there. It's just the video itself. Well, from that video, you can create dozens of pieces of content when it comes to getting it across to your audiences. So from that one video, you can download the audio to create a podcast episode. So that's a second piece of content right there. So you have now video and audio. So if you don't have a podcast, it's very easy to create one. I actually have some tech platforms right here. As promised, I was going to share some tech platforms during this presentation. We've, of course, all heard of iTunes, so you can put your podcast episode on iTunes. There's Anchor FM, which is the one I use for my business. There's also things like Stitcher and Libsyn and Buzzsprout. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. So it depends on what your business goals are and what your budget is. But I would definitely, for example, Anchor FM, the one I use, that one is free, and I use that for my podcast. So these are just some tech platforms when it comes to creating a audio experience or podcast. So the next step in this hack is going to be transcribing your audio into a blog post. So from a video to an audio to now a blog post. So get it transcribed, and it's not going to be perfect. It might require you to edit some of your content, but now you have a blog post. And so more tech platforms. Rev.com, Trint, Transcribe.me, and HappyScribe are some of the ones that I've used. I primarily use Rev.com as my platform for transcribing audio or video. So all you do is you just take your video, you either put it a URL or upload the file, and in about 24 hours, it's transcribed, and then it's sent to you in a Word document. So I think it's just so beneficial. So that's another piece of content right there. You have now three. You have a video, audio, and a blog post. And then from there, you can create short snippets from your blog posts into social media posts. So take a couple of sentences from your blog post that you just created, and then start creating social media posts from it. So that could be, dozens, maybe a dozen, let's say, social media posts right there that you can just take from your blog post and create into social media. So you can put on Facebook, you can put on Instagram, whatever it might be. So that is how to create a month's worth of content from just one video. So you have your video, your audio, your blog post, your social media snippets. You can also even take that video and chunk it up into, let's say, 1-minute segments and put that on Instagram. So those, you can put that now on Instagram. Instagram also additionally now has IGTV, which is you can put 10-minute long videos on Instagram. So there is additional content right there that you can use for many different platforms. So let's talk about platforms now and content distribution. So social media content distribution platforms, more on platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. So creating compelling content and putting it on your social media distribution platforms. And why do I feel that social media distribution platforms are important? Well, just to cover this briefly, over 2 billion users on Facebook and 240 million users in the U.S. So that's a very interesting statistic. So most of the United States is on Facebook, 140 million Instagram users in the United States. So about half of the country is on Instagram. So that's why we want to be also on Instagram and Facebook. So from my guru, Gary Vaynerchuk. One of his quotes that I listen to his podcast all the time and his content, and one of his points is the next 12 to 18 months will be all about Facebook and Instagram. So you definitely want to get on the bandwagon if we're already not there. And being consistent. So it's important that if you're creating content, that you are consistent with your content. So it's not just partially consistent with your branding, so that's part of the consistency, but also consistency in your frequency. So if you are putting out one video a month, then put out one video a month. If you are creating a podcast and you have it once a week, then make sure it's once a week. And I have some points here that will allow you to get more organized. So what I do is I have a content calendar. So my recommendation would be to create a content calendar to keep yourself and your team organized, because I know that you have the content, you're creating it, and maybe you have a lot of content, but then distributing it and actually getting it out there might be another challenge. So having a content calendar that looks something like this would be beneficial. And I know it might be a little bit hard to see, but if you take a look on the left-hand side, you'll have the network. So this is just an Excel spreadsheet that you can create, and you can mimic this one, for example. So you have, let's say, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. These are all the different networks that you can, distribution channels that you can add your content to. And then you just have the next points, the next columns as just the points that you would need to put into your, when you're creating all of this. So time, I don't have a time specifically, but I have the dates that I would want to put my content on there. The content type, so is it a video, is it audio, is it a blog post, the topic, so what's your topic all about, and then the copy that goes into the snippet. So, and then any links that go into that. So let's say Facebook allows links, Instagram does not allow links at this point, so depending on which platform you're using, you can add links or not. Twitter allows for links. So creating this kind of content calendar and spreadsheet would be really helpful for you and your team to get organized. And then once you're ready to actually put this content out there, I use social media scheduling platforms. I use Hootsuite in my business, but you can use whichever. Hootsuite starts off free, and for a while, actually, for about 6 months or so, I used it absolutely free. But there's other platforms out there like Buffer, Sprout Social, Social Pilot. So these platforms allow you to schedule your content in advance. That way you're not like doing it all at once, but you are scheduling them, and then you say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to put it on Twitter. The next day I'm going to put it on Facebook. Sometimes you might want to put it on more than just one platform per day. So as you kind of get an idea of how your content is and how your audiences are responding to it, then you can see how often you want to create. But again, just be consistent, and having this kind of calendar allows you to do that. So that is creating a lasting content strategy for your business using tech platforms. I know that we went through this, and there's a lot of information, so if you guys have any questions, please be sure to let me know and put that into your into the questions section of Brighttalk. But I also wanted to share something really brief with you. So if you like the content that we have here, and if you're interested in more content, this is just one tiny piece of what we do in terms of digital marketing. But there's so much out there in terms of digital marketing that this is just one snippet and one tiny piece of it. So if you go to DMGroup.Online, and DM stands for digital marketing, so DMGroup.Online, I actually have a group of people that I work with and help them with their digital marketing. And so we talk about content like we did today, but then we also talk about so many other topics, and we have so far covered topics like Facebook and Instagram, but we cover things like gaining more followers for your social media, content strategy like we did today, email marketing, online advertising, and retargeting. So we meet twice a month where we cover a topic for digital marketing, just like we did today. So if you're interested in that, I'm happy to have you in my group. The group meets, like I said, twice a month. We already have covered things like how to set up your Facebook pixel, how to set up a Facebook ad, how to use video in your content. We get very specific. I created one video about how to create videos. So one session was about creating videos on how to do your setup and what is the content that you want to put in your video and how to keep users engaged. So there are so many topics out there, and I know that it's challenging sometimes for business owners because there's just so much out there when it comes to digital marketing, and there's so many changes going on. And with this group, that's what we do. I help you along when it comes to getting more followers or growing your business. So I hope you can join me in this group. It's, like I said, just go to DMGroup.Online. It's less than $30 a month, and you get an hour twice a month. So 1 hour we do content, like we did today. And then for 1 hour, we do Q&A. So we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And I hope you guys can join me. Definitely check it out. But I can go through some questions now. We have a few questions come in. I know that we're coming up to 45 minutes soon, so we have a few minutes for questions. So are there any particular tools or platforms you recommend for the calendar? Good question. So in terms of creating the calendar itself, I literally use just a Google Sheets with my team, so I can share it with my team. I just have columns, literally column for date, the topic, the snippet, so like the copy that goes into the URL, into the social media post, and then any links that are required, and then any images, links to Dropbox images that, let's say, my team has created. So if I'm creating a Facebook post or my team is scheduling it, you know, there's an image, there's some copy, they just copy and paste the snippet and put it into Facebook. And then, of course, I use Hootsuite, like I said, for actually scheduling the content, and that's the tool that I use. So that is tools and platforms for the calendar. I have not seen a specific platform for the calendar itself. Like I said, I just use Google Sheets. Do you help content professionals come up with strategy to win executive support? So do you mean like internally executive support? Yeah, I mean, the content strategy could be used for internal purposes. It could be used for external purposes, for finding prospects or customers or clients. So yeah, absolutely. We definitely help content professionals come up with a strategy, because really behind all content is going to be a strategy, right? So what are we trying to accomplish? What are the goals of our business or entrepreneurial venture, whatever it might be? So creating a strategy is going to be the first step in all of this, which is why we talked about understanding who you are as a brand, understanding who your customer is as a brand. So that's all going to be part of the strategy and what we're trying to accomplish and execute with our content. So yeah, another question came in about the program. So who is this program for, the DMGroup.Online? So the program is called Digital Marketing Method. And this group is for entrepreneurs, small to medium-sized business owners, solopreneurs. We even work with creatives. So if you're, let's say, an artist, we work with those kinds of individuals as well. It's really anybody who is interested in growing their following, let's say, on social media, or growing their business using digital marketing strategies. So we have an awesome bunch of individuals and entrepreneurs who are already part of the group, and it's just a great dynamic organization that we've put together, and I hope you guys can join us there. I know we're coming up to 45 minutes. I think I'm going to get shut down here in a few, so if you guys have any more questions, please reach out before the next 20 seconds are up. Otherwise, I hope you guys join me in the group, and I look forward to seeing you. Have a great rest of the day.